welcome back to our food program. The first recipe that I would like to share with you is a main dish, and it can be served in a variety of ways, which I will share with you as we finish the recipe. It has legumes in it, and I've used a 3-bean mix. You know, legumes you can buy dry, and you need to cook them yourself, or you can buy them already cooked in a can. And so you can choose, and we'll talk a little later how to prepare legumes from dry. I'll just put those here. I'm going to use an electric fry pan, but you can use a saucepan on the stove if you'd like, or a wok, whichever cooking appliance that you feel happy with, you can use for this recipe. It's again a quick and easy one. I'm going to just put a couple of teaspoons of oil in the fry pan. And it'd be a good idea if I turned it on, which I've just done. And we're going to put the onion in. And I mentioned before in our other demonstrations that when you're using garlic, which we're going to be using, and we've just crushed some fresh garlic, or if you're using dried herbs, they're so much nicer when you dry roast them first. You get a much better flavour. And so we're going to do that. We'll just wait for this to warm up. As well as the legumes, we're using some red and green capsicum, also some tomatoes that have already been cooked, some lovely olives. And when it comes to olives, there are different flavoured olives available in your supermarket. These are the Greek calamati olives, and they just have a beautiful flavour. Not everybody enjoys the strong flavour of calamati, so you can get the Spanish olives. They are much milder. And if you say olives is not for me, you can just leave them out altogether, and you'll still have a nice recipe. So let's get started. I can feel that this is heating up, which is good. We're going to just put an onion in that I've sliced, but you can chop it however you like. Again, I'm cooking on medium heat, and on medium heat, some of the natural moisture is released, as we've mentioned before. And that helps the cooking process, and that stops you from having to put more fat in there to stop the food from sticking, because when we're cooking we don't want the food to be stuck to the bottom of the pan. So just give that a little stir, and we're going to scrape that aside, and I'm going to put the garlic just into the fry pan, just on the area where we've taken the onion away, and with your wooden spoon or your spatula, just pat it so that it spreads out, and for about 15 seconds you dry roast the garlic. If you're using ginger, you would do the same. If you're using dried herbs, you also would do the same. But we're just using garlic today. Now that's just about right, and then you stir the onion through, and you just allow that now to just cook for a little bit less than a minute, so not very long. And then the next step, we're going to put in the red and green capsicum. And again, having colours makes the food look attractive, but it's also very good for you, because in the colour cells of these fruits, these vegetables, but fruit too, there are very important substances that have a very high antioxidant activity, and that's important for protection right down at cell level. And so we'll add the red capsicum, and we'll also add the green. And just allow that to just soften a little. And again, as we've said before, you could put everything in all together, and that still would give you a very nice recipe with a good flavour. But by following these steps, you get a better flavour. But I guess it does depend on how much time you actually have available as you're cooking. And so the next ingredient that we're going to put in is some tomatoes. Now these are from a can, but you can have your own freshly chopped tomatoes. And if you're going to use your own fresh tomatoes, you would need about 6 tomatoes, medium size. But this is a can of chopped tomatoes that has a little bit of oregano in it and basil. So there's a little extra flavour there. So if you're using fresh tomatoes, you would need to just add a little basil and or oregano. So this is just about ready now, so we'll put the tomato in. Just stir that through. And we'll also add the beans, and these are already cooked. Legumes are wonderful, and not many people use them today. And I want to encourage you to include legumes, and you'll find over the next few recipes on this DVD, we have quite a few legume recipes because we want to encourage you to use them. They have a good amount of protein in them. They also have different types of fiber. They're very good for maintaining a good stable blood glucose level. And so for people with diabetes, these legumes are valuable. But for everyone else, they're just as good. And so we're going to add 1.5 cups of cooked legumes. And I've used a mixture of beans, but you can use whichever you like. Now you'll notice that we have quite a watery texture here, and that will get more so as we cook because the natural moisture from these vegetables is going to leach out and make the whole recipe more liquid. And we really want to have a sauce texture. And so whenever you're using tomatoes and you want to create a sauce texture, because this will just get more liquid and more liquid, you use tomato paste. Tomato paste will give you that beautiful sauce texture and also a slightly richer flavor of the tomato. And so we'll put that in. Get all of it out. And you just stir that through. And we'll also add the olives, and as I said, I'm using calamati, but you can use Spanish olives, which will be a little less in flavor, intensity, or you can leave them out altogether if it's not your favorite. But the colors and textures just look lovely, don't they? We've also got some parsley, and I've used continental parsley because that has a better flavor also than the regular parsley that we have, the curly leaf one. And so just stir all that together and allow that to simmer. You can actually use it straight away and it'll be a little crunchy. And I prefer that actually. But if you wanted it to be more sauce-like and a little softer, put the lid on and just simmer it for about 10 minutes, not any longer than that, because you still want to be able to recognize those vegetables. But you can actually serve it as it is. And there are different ways of using this recipe. I'm just going to put the lid on, just for a moment while I share with you the different ways that you can use this recipe. I'm actually going to serve it on a baked potato, which I have here. Just a potato that's been dry baked in the oven. And you put this, bean Provencale is the name of the recipe. I don't think I even told you that when we started. Sorry. We're going to put that over the top of the potato. And if you serve that with a side salad, you actually have a lovely meal that is very quick and easy. Our next recipe is going to be a recipe that uses couscous, and it has vegetables in it. And often I serve this together with the couscous recipe. And so that will be the next one. And so those two also can be combined. But today I'm just going to serve a little on the baked potato for you. There we are. And just with a lovely side salad, you have a beautiful recipe and a lovely, fresh, tasty meal that is nutritious and very low in fat.